Hey, Heidi ho, everybody. This is Postmortem Nightshade, and welcome back to episode 2 of Movies That Did and Did Not Live Up to the Hype. This episode is about one genre of film that I have struggled to really get into or enjoy, and that is comedy movies. I feel like I am super picky about comedy movies. I don't mean to be, but a lot of them I just don't find very funny, and most of the time I feel like they test my patience. But I have been trying to give more and more comedies a chance because the ones that do actually hit for me become some of my favorite movies. So I thought I would hop on the channel and catalog which comedies I actually think are worth the hype and which I think just plain stink.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
If you enjoy this type of video, I have the first episode on my channel, except that episode is about horror movies, so check that out if you're interested. But growing up with very strict movie rules significantly narrowed the scope of what I watched in every genre, but I would especially say that is true in the comedy department. Like horror, I feel that a lot of the most famous comedies are rated R, with a few being PG-13, but most of the good/slash famous ones usually sit in the 17 and older category. So, a lot of my comedic taste for the longest time was shaped by what I saw in movies growing up as a kid. This included a lot of slapstick humor and a subsection of slapstick that I actually call auditory humor. One of the best examples of this I can think of is the wolf from the Disney movie Sword in the Stone. I still find this wolf hilarious to this day and to quote his sounds and mannerisms in my daily life. Yeah, that might be kind of weird, kind of odd, but there you go. Over the last several years, however, I would say that my humor has evolved and grown, and as such, I have started to realize that I actually do like comedies. It's just a genre I'm super picky about. So, to try and figure out my listings for this video, I went to Letterboxd and sorted the comedy genre to see what comedies I'd actually seen. And holy moly, just so you know, if comedy is remotely even a genre associated with a film, then Letterboxd puts it in the sorting. So, to further aid in my quest to narrow things down and be more definitive when talking about comedic centric movies in this video, I referenced a Rotten Tomatoes article titled 150 Essential Comedy Movies to Watch Now. And after looking over Letterboxd and referencing the Rotten Tomatoes list, I think I have a good batch of films to talk about with you today. And because I like to start with the positives, let's look at comedies that I enjoy immensely and that I think absolutely deserve all the hype in the world. Starting with a recent discovery of mine, although it's definitely not a recent film, The Birdcage is one I very much enjoyed and instantly fell in love with. Released in 1996, this film was directed by Mike Nichols and stars Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, and Gene Hackman. This movie was actually not a film I was aware of until a trailer played announcing its comeback into theaters through a Fathom event. And after watching the trailer, I thought the movie looked interesting, and I love Robin Williams, so I gave it a try a few weeks ago, and like I said, I just absolutely fell in love with this film. The story follows a couple, played by Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, who own a drag club together, and their son actually ends up falling in love with the daughter of a far right wing Republican senator who is played by Gene Hackman. Hijinks then ensue once the two families are to meet before the wedding commences. This movie has so many great one liners, and the last 25 minutes or so of the film are comedy gold. The aesthetics of this movie, although that has nothing to do with the comedy, are amazing, and the acting and delivery from the whole cast makes this a super relaxing and fun comedy that had me laughing throughout the entire runtime. This is also a movie I could see myself rewatching many, many times in the future. I hadn't ever heard of this film, but I am so glad it was put onto my radar, and I hope now that I've told you about it, you can also enjoy this delightful film. Up next is Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. This was a movie I actually saw and reviewed earlier this year. That video is currently on my channel if you want to check it out. And it is also currently in the Letterboxd video store, which is a super cool concept I just wanted to plug real quick. Of course, not sponsored or anything. I just think it's a really cool thing Letterboxd is doing. So if you haven't heard of the Letterboxd video store, it is a rental platform within the Letterboxd app or through the website that allows you to gain access to the platform's curated collection. Its goal is to bring wider access to more movies, which of course I always support. But if you'd rather use another platform, this movie is also available to rent on YouTube, Amazon Prime, Apple TV, and many others. Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, was a Mystery Movie Monday film that I was completely unaware of and was not on my release radar at all. But the longer I have sat on the film many months later, the more I fall in love with it. If you're not so sure what this film is about, I don't blame you. The title is very confusing, but the story actually has nothing to do with the band known as Nirvana, and it's in fact about a duo of dudes trying to make it in the music world when time traveling chaos ensues that tests the core friendship of the movie to its absolute limits. This movie was directed by Matthew Johnson and is actually a spin off film from a web/TV show. The two leads are Jane Carroll and Matthew Johnson, and their chemistry is just electric. No orbits pun intended. The opening bit with a stadium is so scary it's funny, and it just gets better from there. The movie has a great warmth and authenticity to it, and that element makes sense because it was a web show initially, and that allows it to feel like you are watching your favorite content creator make a comedy movie. This movie has a great ability to spoof off of pop culture elements from our world, i.e., with the time travel element, think Back to the Future. But then they also add their own unique and fun twist to it, referencing the orbits pun I made earlier. I think I called them Orbeez on accident. It's called Orbits in this universe. It's a fun drink. Anyway, watch the movie, it'll make sense. But this film is honestly just a parody in the best way possible while still doing its own thing. The heart that is written into this story just ties everything together, and truly, I think that's a key ingredient in comedy movies I love is that there is a really strong emotional pull to the film on top of all the comedy taking place. It is a shame, though, that not more people saw or talked about this movie, and I think it'll easily be a hidden gem from 2026. And another comedy that I know you've heard me talk about before that I love, 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 love is Good Fortune. So, of course, since I've talked about it, I'll be brief in my thoughts. Coming out only last year in 2025 and directed by Aziz Ansari, this film stars Keanu Reeves as a guardian angel, Seth Rogen as a tech billionaire, and Aziz Ansari himself as a down on his luck average Joe just struggling to make ends meet. And when the guardian angel decides to allow Aziz Ansari's character to trade lives with the tech billionaire, it becomes a struggle for everyone, because after getting a taste of the good life, Aziz Ansari's character isn't sure he wants his old life back. Most relatable thing ever. Prompting a delightful string of hijinks and one-liners, this is another film I quote all the time.
Taking cigarettes now? Leave me alone, Jeff. I like it. It's all I have.
As I just mentioned, for me, comedies need to have heart to them, and this one absolutely does. But I think another reason this film stuck with me so much is because it feels so deeply relatable. It takes quite a lot of talent to write a story, I think, that perfectly encapsulates the struggle of a specific time and what people are experiencing, especially with everything going on in the current economic climate. And that relatability and the likableness of the story's characters helped this one stick with me, and I quickly bought it on physical copy once that was available. As far as the comedy is concerned, the chemistry between our three leads is chef's kiss, and the biggest surprise for me, though, was just how amazing Keanu Reeves was in this role. I've never seen him in comedy, honestly, I've kind of seen him do the same role over and over, but he's got great deadpan comedic chops. I really hope he explores this genre more, because I loved him in this movie. Of course, Seth Rogen and Aziz Ansari are comedy staples at this point, and watching this film, it's easy to see why, as their delivery and timing of the jokes was top notch. All around, this is a great film, honestly, you know by now, I just can't recommend it enough. And the penultimate movie that makes my comedy gold list is Galaxy Quest. Released in 1999 and directed by Dean Parisot, this film stars Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, Alan Rickman, and Tony Shalhoub. This comedy, I'm pretty sure, fits into the parody category, although don't let that scare you away because the story behind this one is extremely solid and once again, full of a lot of heart. When the cast of a Star Trek adjacent TV series are chosen by actual aliens to help save their lives, this ragtag group of actors will have to give it their best shot without any actual clue of what they are doing. As someone who enjoys and has actually seen a lot of Star Trek, I thought this was a great parody. And not only does the parody element work, but there are a lot of other one-liners that are just delivered perfectly by the amazing cast in this film. If you are a fan of Alan Rickman, who of course sadly has already passed on, may he rest in peace, I miss him so much, but if you haven't seen him in a more comedic role, definitely give this film a try as he's so amazing in it. This is a fun and goofy film that is one I actually think the whole family can enjoy, so if you're looking for a comedy to enjoy with your kids, I think this easily fits the bill. And the last film that to me was worth the hype was actually the new remake of The Naked Gun. In the most recent film in the franchise from 2025, Liam Neeson plays the son of Leslie Nielsen's character from the original films as he tries to save the world from an evil tech billionaire and keep Police Squad from being closed forever. After watching this requel with Liam Neeson, I am very interested in returning to watch the original Naked Gun films because this movie was so versatile in its humor. There were so many different types of jokes, and it was really one after the next, which truly helps this film feel like it's flying through the hour and 25-minute runtime. It also has got some great spoofs on modern culture and politics, similar to Good Fortune, I would say, especially in the tech billionaire department. And like with Keanu Reeves in Good Fortune, I was so shocked at how well Liam Neeson does in a comedic role. I had seen a little bit of his comedic work in this year's Cold Storage, and while I wasn't the biggest fan of that film, I thought Liam Neeson was funny in it, and he's even more hilarious in this movie, which is great because, like Keanu, I've only ever really seen him play one type of role, so it was great to see this versatility from him. The trailer for this one definitely did not do the movie justice, so don't lean on that to determine if you'll like this one or not, just give it a try. It currently is streaming on Amazon Prime, which is how I saw it recently, so you can check it out now if you're interested. And now, unfortunately, we move into the set of movies that were pretty well received, but that I just didn't find funny and or whose stories just didn't land with me. Now, I know this first one is probably gonna ruffle some feathers, so I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off and get it over with. 21 Jump Street was not my vibe. Critics gave this film an 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, with audiences giving it an 83%, and on Letterboxd, it sits at an average of 3.6. So, clearly, as the title of this video implies, my thoughts fall into the category of the less popular opinion about this one. I thought that Jonah Hill and Channing Tatum did well in their roles, and there was a decent amount of heart in this film actually. But for me, there was really only one line that I thought was funny, but it was one I knew about long before I discovered this film, and that's the iconic
My name is Jeff.
quote. And as far as the rest of the film is concerned, I thought it was just kind of lackluster. On my personal scale, this film sits in the Hey Heidi, no really maybe just stop category. And truthfully, I probably won't have as much to say on the comedies I didn't enjoy, simply because sometimes I think even if a film has all the right ingredients, some films are just either funny to you or they aren't. End of story. And for me, 21 Jump Street, while having all the right ingredients, just wasn't funny. Up next, we have The Nice Guys. According to Rotten Tomatoes, critics gave this one a 91%, with audiences giving it a 79%. And on Letterboxd, this film sits at a 3.8 average. So I am even more off in my thoughts regarding this film than the last one. The two leads of this movie are Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. And I will say that I did like The Nice Guys more than I liked 21 Jump Street. I thought the premise was more interesting, and the aesthetic of this film was on point. I laughed at more of the jokes, however, at the heart of this one just didn't quite evoke much from me, and while the performances were good, I at times found myself bored during this film. Part of the issue for me, I think, is the runtime, as this film is basically 2 hours. So I think this might have actually ended up in the category of comedies I liked, if perhaps they had shaved down its runtime. But my overall experience with this film barely squeaked it into being a mid experience, which lands it in the Hey Heidi okay category on my scale. And unfortunately, when you're on this list, you either land in the good category or you don't. And this film just didn't land for me. The penultimate movie that didn't live up to the hype was Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. Initially, I thought this film was more of a cult classic, but at this point, I would say it's actually moved more mainstream. But let me know in the comments, do you still consider this one a cult classic or not? Sitting at an 83% with critics and an 84% with audiences on Rotten Tomatoes, this film also sits at a 3.9 average on Letterboxd. So lots of good scores for this one. Directed by Edgar Wright, this was a film I went in fully expecting to love because I adore his later work with Last Night in Soho. Great film, I love that one so much. But with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, while the story is interesting and I do enjoy the stylization that they went with, I just didn't find this movie to be that funny outside of a couple of lines. This film, again, is also 2 hours, which just felt way too long. And honestly, I think the wackiness and over the top nature of this movie would have benefited a lot from a shorter runtime. So, just like the last film, this one falls into the Hey Heidi Okay category on my scale. And the last film we'll be discussing today is Groundhog Day. From 1993, this film stars Bill Murray and Andie MacDowell in a romantic comedy that ensues after Bill Murray's character is trapped in the same day over and over. That day also just happens to be Groundhog Day. Rotten Tomatoes critics scored this film at 93%, with audiences scoring it at 88%. And Letterboxd users averaged this movie at a 3.8. Like Nice Guys, this was one that I could see tipping actually into a comedy I like, but not love. The performances are great, the story is charming, the premise is interesting. It just, again, wasn't one I personally found funny. There isn't anything that quotable or very memorable for me about this one, other than the fact that it takes place on Groundhog Day, so I guess that's something, but that's really all I remember. So, again, this last film just sits in the Hey Heidi Okay category, but I could see maybe a rewatch or two changing my mind into liking this movie, but this is definitely more about living up to the hype, and this one just didn't do it for me. So, as I mentioned earlier, when talking about the movies I didn't like, it was usually that the comedy just didn't land, although sometimes length, pacing, or lackluster, heart centered moments tended also to be a film's downfall for me in the comedic department. But having watched all of these films, it is easy for me to see why they're so beloved by so many people. And it would be just as easy for me to see why people wouldn't love the movies I do, because comedy is subjective. I think it's one of the most subjective genres out there. I think the only genre competing for subjectiveness would be horror, but comedy is easily very, very personal. Not only is it based on what is relatable to you, the delivery, and the overall package, it also can be tied to your mood or life experiences surrounding the day you watch said comedy. So, while comedy for me is a genre that is hit or miss, as is clear by this video, I know a lot of people who say it's their favorite genre. So, let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on these films? What do you think of comedies in general? Do you like the genre? What's your favorite comedy you've ever seen? And is there one that others love that you aren't a big fan of? But thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in and listening to me ramble about comedy movies. I so appreciate you taking time out of your day to spend with me. And if you'd like to follow along on my movie review journey, please like and subscribe, and I will see y'all very soon. Bye!